The city never really slept. It only changed masks. From her fourth-floor apartment above Halsted Street, Nora Blake watched the midnight traffic smear into ribbons of red and white light. A siren wailed somewhere below, sharp and distant. The hum of her old laptop was constant, like the city's own heartbeat. Just one more file, she muttered, dragging another image into the layout window. Her voice sounded foreign in the empty apartment. Then maybe, sleep. But she didn't stop. Not yet. Rent was due. Her mother's medical bills waited on the counter. The cursor blinked on the screen like it was mocking her exhaustion. Her phone buzzed, startling her. Unknown number. Miss Blake, a woman's calm, polished voice asked. I'm calling from Silverleaf Events. We were referred to you by a former client. There's a private gala tomorrow night, last-minute emergency. We need a decorator who can handle pressure. Nora blinked. Tomorrow night? That's pretty short notice. Yes. We're willing to pay triple your usual rate. Transportation, materials, everything covered. Just one night. For a moment, all she heard was the rain beginning against the window. A slow, rhythmic sound that somehow made her realize how quiet her apartment had become. What's the catch? She asked finally. No catch, the voice said smoothly. Just discretion. The client values privacy. Something in that phrasing tugged at her. Discretion. Privacy. Words that usually came wrapped in warning labels. Still, triple pay. And she was so tired of saying no. All right, Nora said, rubbing her eyes. Send me the address. You'll receive a message within the hour, the woman replied. Bring your equipment. Dress appropriately. And, Miss Blake? Yes? Once you're on the property, your phone must remain off for the duration of the evening. The line went dead before Nora could answer. She stared at her reflection in the dark window, pale skin, shadowed eyes, a woman who hadn't slept properly in months. Then she whispered to no one in particular, it's just one night. What's the worst that could happen? Outside, thunder rolled over the skyline. When Nora finally zipped her toolkit shut and turned off the lights, she didn't know that she'd just stepped into the kind of night that divides a life in two. Before and after. The gala was chaos disguised as beauty. Nora tried to move quietly between tables, adjusting candles and tablecloths while guests laughed too loudly, their perfume mixing with the heat of champagne. Her job was simple, make everything look effortless. But nothing about this place felt effortless. Every conversation seemed half-coded, every smile a test. By 11, she'd stopped pretending she wasn't dizzy. The air was too heavy, her chest too tight. She reached for a glass of water, misjudged the distance, and the floor rushed up to meet her. She woke to silence. The music was gone, the light softer. A fire crackled somewhere close. When she moved, a low voice said, "Careful. You hit your head." Nora blinked at the man sitting beside her. He looked more like a judge than a party host, sharp suit, sleeves rolled to his forearms, dark eyes that didn't bother hiding how much they saw. "Where am I?" "In my office," he said. "You collapsed. My people brought you here." His calm unsettled her more than the fall. "Your office? So you're Declan Rowe." The name landed like cold water. She knew it from whispers, money, politics, the kind of power people never admitted fearing. "Right," she said, forcing a breath. "That explains the silence." A small smile touched his mouth. "You think silence belongs to people like me?" I think you buy it, she replied. He studied her for a moment. You remember me, don't you? No. Wicker Park. You were painting a mural in the rain. I asked for directions. Nora frowned. That was years ago. I don't forget faces, Declan said. Especially ones that looked at me without calculation. She shifted on the couch. You have a strange memory, Mr. Rowe. Strange is useful, he said. Most people spend their lives pretending not to see what's in front of them. Something in his tone, almost regretful, made her pause. And what do you see? Someone who doesn't belong here. He leaned back, still watching her. And someone who's too tired to run from the wrong kind of offer. I didn't ask for an offer. No, he said quietly. You just walked into one. The words hung between them, heavier than the room itself. I should go, she said, standing too fast. Her head spun again, and Declan was already beside her, steadying her with one hand. You're pale. Sit down. I'm fine. You're not. His voice softened. Stay tonight. There's a guest room upstairs. Leave in the morning. That's unnecessary. Maybe. But I'm insisting. Nora looked at the door, then at him. You always get what you want, don't you? Not always, he said. Just often enough that people stop testing it. He gave her a faint nod and left the room, his footsteps fading into the hall. Nora stood alone by the fire, the echo of his voice still wrapping around her thoughts. She wanted to believe this was just a stranger's kindness, but nothing about Declan Rowe felt accidental. Something in the way he said her name, as if he'd been waiting for it, made her realize this wasn't a beginning. It was a continuation she hadn't known existed. 2 days after the gala, a black car stopped outside Nora's building. Inside, an envelope with her name, a new phone, and a note. Lunch. Tomorrow. 1 p.m. She should have ignored it. But curiosity beat fear. Declan Rowe was already waiting at the restaurant, calm as if this meeting had been inevitable. You came, he said. I haven't decided if that's a mistake. That depends on what you think I want. Nora sat across from him. You invited me. Explain. He pushed a folder toward her. You're talented. Organized. Underpaid. I'm offering you work, coordination for my private events. High pay, complete discretion. She opened the folder. Inside, her resume, social media, bank info. Even her overdue bills. Her voice went cold. You've been investigating me. Researching. I don't hire strangers. That's not research, that's surveillance. He shrugged. You'd be surprised how thin the line is. And if I say no? Declan's gaze didn't move. You won't. Why not? I already paid your mother's hospital debt this morning. The words hit like a slap. You did what? He spoke gently, almost amused. Consider it in advance. That's not generosity, that's control. It's practicality, he said. I remove obstacles before they become excuses. You can't just buy people. I don't buy them. I invest in them. Nora leaned forward. You think you can own me? I think you're tired enough to accept help from the devil if he offered a steady paycheck. She stood. You don't know me. I remember you, he said quietly. That mural in Wicker Park. You had paint on your face and didn't flinch when I asked for directions. You looked alive then. She froze. That was years ago. I remember, he repeated. You looked at me like I was human. Silence pressed between them. I'm not working for you. You already are, he said. Your debts are gone. Your rent, too. I like solving problems. That's blackmail. That's gratitude, misinterpreted. She left, furious. But the next morning her landlord confirmed, 6 months' rent prepaid. Her mother's medicine delivered. A driver waiting outside. Declan didn't call. He didn't have to. She understood the message, it's easier if you cooperate. When she finally confronted him in his office a week later, her voice trembled with anger. You said you needed an organizer. What you want is control. He looked up, unbothered. I like order. You're good at creating it. You're suffocating me with favors. Would you prefer indifference? I'd prefer honesty. He set down his pen. Fine. You're useful, Nora. Smart. Careful. I trust very few people, and I don't trust by choice. You should take that as protection, not punishment. Protection from what? From everything that wants to use you worse than I do. Her voice broke into a quiet laugh. That's supposed to comfort me? I don't offer comfort. I offer survival. The weeks blurred. Her life grew quieter, easier, and smaller. A driver waited each morning. Groceries appeared before she asked. Her calls were screened for convenience. And everywhere she turned, Declan's shadow lingered. One night, after another of his endless business dinners, she said, You help me like someone cleaning a cage. Declan met her eyes, unreadable. Cages keep the wolves out. Or in. He smiled slightly. Depends which one you are. That night, Nora realized the truth. He wasn't fixing her life, he was rewriting it. And every kindness was just another lock clicking shut. By the 3rd month, Nora knew every sound in the mansion. The soft click of doors locking, the quiet footsteps that stopped when she turned. At first, she told herself it was paranoia. But paranoia doesn't leave footprints outside your door. One morning, she found a man waiting by the staircase. Dark suit, polite smile, unfamiliar face. Security rotation, he said. Mr. Rose orders. Since when do I need security? Since you started asking questions. She froze. Excuse me? He smiled again. Breakfast is ready, ma'am. When she reached the dining room, Declan was already there, reading. She stood for a moment, forcing calm. You replaced the staff. He didn't look up. People come and go. Without notice? Without saying goodbye? Some assignments end. Others begin. You mean they were fired because they talked to me? Declan closed the paper. They were moved. You're too sharp to play naive. I'm trying to understand what this place is, she said. A house or a trap? His gaze met hers. A house becomes a trap when someone wants to leave. Do I need permission now? He studied her for a long moment. You should have told me you were planning to go into the city last week. Her pulse quickened. How did you? You used your card at a cafe on Halstead. One of my people recognized you. You're tracking me? I'm protecting you. That's not protection, Declan. That's surveillance. He sighed, voice quiet but sharp. You faint in my house, I carry you to safety. I clear your debts, you call it manipulation. I watch over you, and it's surveillance. Tell me, Nora, what version of care would satisfy you? The kind that doesn't make me feel owned. Silence. Only the ticking clock between them. Finally he said, "You don't understand my world." Then explain it to me. If someone touches what's mine, they disappear. That's the rule that keeps you breathing. I'm not what's yours. You are, he said simply. Because I decided to keep you safe. Her voice shook. That's not how safety works. It is in my world. Later that day, she tested it. Tried to leave through the front gate. The guard stepped aside politely. I'll need to confirm with Mr. Rowe. She smiled tightly. Tell him it's none of his business. He made a brief call. Moments later, the phone in her pocket buzzed. Declan Rowe, incoming call. Nora answered without speaking. I asked you not to wander, his voice came, low and even. Where are you going? For a walk. Then walk in the gardens. Inside the walls. I need air. There's air here. Not the kind I want. A pause. Then, come back. Don't make me send someone. She ended the call. The guard stepped back. Ma'am, please. Her throat tightened. You'd stop me if I tried? He didn't answer. That was answer enough. That night, she confronted him again. Do you even hear yourself? You talk about care like it's ownership. Declan looked tired, but his tone stayed calm. You think I like this? You think I want to keep you behind walls? You don't know how many eyes are on you now that you work for me. I didn't choose to work for you. He slammed his hand against the table, the first crack in his composure. Then go, he said. If you can survive a week without someone coming for you, I'll call it even. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You'd really let me test that? He looked away. No. For the first time, Nora understood, Declan didn't control people because he wanted power. He controlled them because without it, he'd lose what little peace he had left. And she was the one thing he wasn't willing to lose. That night she locked her door, but it didn't matter. Somewhere in the corridor, she heard quiet footsteps pause outside. And stay. Hey, hold on a second. If what I'm saying right now touched you, even a little. If you've ever felt small, unseen, or lost, I get you. Truly. You're not alone. And if you've got even a little bit of strength left, just grab your phone. Hit the like button, drop a few words in the comments. And subscribe. For you, it's just a second. But for me, it's a sign. A sign that there's someone out there. Someone real. Who's listening, who feels this too. Thank you for being here. Really. From the heart. All right, let's keep going. The East Wing was supposed to be empty. No one went there, even the cleaners avoided it. Nora only entered because she needed space to think, somewhere beyond cameras, beyond his voice. Dust covered the floor, and the silence was almost kind. Then she noticed the cabinet. Locked. Heavy. Out of place in a dead hallway. She hesitated, then pulled a thin screwdriver from her bag, habit from her work, and pried it open. Inside were burned papers, half-charred folders, the smell of smoke and old secrets. She sifted through the fragments, heart thudding. Most pages were illegible, but one photograph was still intact. A fire. 3 years ago. The same fire that had destroyed her old apartment, the night she'd lost everything. And there, at the bottom corner of the image, her name, typed neatly, Nora Blake. Beside it, another, Ivy Carter. She froze. Ivy, her college friend, the one who'd helped her find freelance work after the fire. The one who'd vanished without a word last year. Nora kept reading the half-burned sheet stapled to the photo. Most lines were gone, but she could make out pieces. Witness extraction, fire staged, relocation approved by D. Rowe. Her stomach dropped. It wasn't an accident. It was planned. The room suddenly felt smaller, the air thick. A voice behind her said, "You shouldn't be here." Nora spun around. Declan stood in the doorway, calm, too calm. "You followed me," she whispered. "You left your door unlocked. You staged that fire." He didn't flinch. "You weren't supposed to see that file. You planned my life? You," her voice broke. "You knew who I was before that night at the gala. I've known you longer than you think." "Don't," she said sharply. "Don't turn this into some noble story." Declan's eyes darkened. "You were being watched by people who wanted you dead. I pulled you out. You just never asked why. Because I thought you were decent. I never claimed to be." She took a step closer, shaking. "You burned my home. My work. My memories. You'd have died if I hadn't. You killed the life I had." His voice dropped low. "And gave you one that still exists." She laughed, bitter, breathless. "You didn't save me, Declan. You recruited me." He exhaled slowly, like someone carrying too much truth. "You were part of something you didn't understand. Ivy Carter worked for me. You got caught in her mess. I couldn't risk leaving witnesses. So you erased me instead. I protected you." "By lying?" "Yes," he said quietly. "And I'd do it again." They stood there, the space between them alive with fury. "What now?" she asked finally. "Do you lock me up again? Burn another file?" "No," Declan said. "You're free to leave. But you won't. Try me." He stepped aside, letting her pass. "There's the door." Nora walked past him, heart hammering. Every step toward the exit felt like walking through wet cement. She made it to the hall before his voice stopped her. "If you leave," he said softly, "someone will find you. They'll use you against me. And when they do, you'll wish you'd stayed." She turned back. "And if I stay? Then at least I can keep you alive." Nora stared at him, seeing the truth for the first time. Declan wasn't afraid of losing power. He was afraid of losing control over her. "I don't want your protection anymore. You'll want it when the world remembers who you are. Then let it." Her voice shook, but she didn't look away. "Let it burn again." That night she didn't sleep. She gathered what she'd found, the photo, the burned papers, fragments of her old life, and hid them in her bag. By dawn, she knew what she had to do. Not to confront him again. Not to run in panic. To disappear, and make sure his empire followed her into the dark. Nora didn't run right away. Running would have been predictable, and Declan Rowe had built a life around predicting others. Instead, she pretended. Breakfasts, polite nods, measured silences. She smiled when expected, worked when watched. But behind that mask, she planned. She copied files when no one was looking, guest lists, payment transfers, coded messages labeled charity accounts. Each document was a brick in the wall she would one day bring down. She had 3 days before Declan left for a business trip to New York. That was her window. The night before he was to leave, she entered his office quietly. The guards had changed rotation, she'd timed it perfectly. The computer required a passcode, but she'd watched him enough times to know the rhythm of his hands, 6-1-9-4. His daughter's birthday, she'd guessed once. Now she knew. The screen opened. Folders spread before her like arteries pulsing with secrets. Offshore transfers. Shipment manifests. Surveillance footage. And there, the file she'd been waiting for, Project Ivy. Inside, her own name appeared again. Next to it, financial records and one line that made her skin crawl. Subject relocated for asset leverage. Maintain emotional dependency. Her hands shook. She copied everything to a flash drive, slipped it into her boot, and exhaled slowly. Then she heard the door. Declan stood in the doorway, no tie, sleeves rolled up, eyes dark. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "Funny," Nora replied. "That's exactly what I said last time." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "You were looking for answers. Now you have them. What will you do with them? Tell the truth." "To whom?" he asked. "The police? The press? Do you think they'll protect you from the people behind me? I'll take my chances. You won't make it out the gate." "Then I'll die trying," she said. Declan's voice hardened. "You think I wanted to make you part of this? I tried to give you peace, Nora. A life without fear." "Fear of what? The world? Or you?" He stared at her for a long moment. "You'll understand one day that control is the only way to survive." "No," she said softly. "It's the way you destroy everything you touch." For the first time, Declan looked uncertain. "Don't do this." "Then stop me." She walked past him, expecting to be grabbed. He didn't move. Just watched as she left the office, then said, almost to himself, "If you walk out that door, they'll come for you." She didn't look back. The mansion was asleep except for the guards near the gate. She slipped through the side corridor, used the security card she'd stolen from his assistant, and made it to the garage. The flash drive was warm in her hand. Every secret of his empire, condensed into silence. The moment she started the car, alarms blared. He had known she'd try. Of course he had. The gates began to close automatically. She floored the accelerator. The tires screamed as metal scraped against the car's sides, but she made it through, barely. Behind her, the mansion's lights came alive, sharp and white like teeth. By sunrise, she was miles away, parked by the river. Her hands trembled as she uploaded the files to several encrypted accounts. Anonymous emails, timed to send within 12 hours. Enough to fracture Declan's world without her needing to see it burn. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. She already knew who it was. "Nora," Declan's voice said quietly. "You think you've won?" "I didn't come to win," she said. "Just to stop pretending." "You've condemned me." "No," she whispered. "You condemned yourself." Silence stretched, then he said, "You'll never disappear. They'll look for you." "I know." "Then why do it?" "Because I'd rather be hunted than owned." For a moment, he said nothing. When he spoke again, his voice sounded almost tired. "Goodbye, Nora." The line went dead. She stared at the river until the screen went dark in her hand. The city was waking, indifferent and bright. Somewhere behind her, alarms would be sounding again, not from the mansion this time, but from Declan's empire as it began to unravel. She didn't watch it fall. She just drove away. 6 months later, Nora Blake stopped being Nora Blake. In the coastal town of Greyhaven, she became Elena Ward, owner of a small flower shop by the harbor. The kind of place where days smelled of salt and eucalyptus, and strangers greeted each other by name. No one asked about her past. That was the point. She lived simply. Coffee at dawn, deliveries before noon, quiet evenings by the sea. Sometimes she'd catch herself reaching for the phone to check messages she'd never receive. Old reflexes die slow. The world had gone on without her. Declan's empire, too. Rumors traveled in fragments, a raid, frozen accounts, a few powerful men vanishing overnight. But his name never made the headlines. Maybe he'd disappeared before the collapse. Maybe he was buried beneath it. She never checked. One windy morning, she opened her mailbox and froze. Inside, a plain, unmarked envelope. No return address. No handwriting she recognized. Her breath caught as she tore it open. A single sprig of lavender. Pressed flat, still fragrant. For a moment, everything stopped, the hum of the street, the cry of gulls, even the ticking clock inside her shop. That flower didn't belong to this coast. It belonged to the window ledge of his office, where sunlight used to fall through the blinds and he'd say, "Lavender helps me think. The scent calms the mind." Her fingers trembled slightly. Inside the envelope, there was nothing else. No note, no signature. But faintly, she could smell smoke, old leather, and the ghost of the cologne she'd tried to forget. That night, she stayed late in the shop, the lavender stem lying beside her on the counter. Outside, fog rolled in from the sea, swallowing the streets whole. She told herself it was just a memory resurfacing. That someone else could have sent it. But when she closed the shutters, she caught her own reflection in the glass, and behind it, for just a second, the outline of a man standing across the street. Still. Waiting. She blinked. The street was empty. Still, she whispered into the quiet, "You don't get to find me again." The sea answered with a single wave breaking against the rocks, steady and relentless. Nora, no, Elena, turned off the lights. In the dark, the lavender still smelled of him. And somewhere, miles away, someone lit a cigarette and smiled into the night. The story wasn't over. It was just waiting.